Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a review of the Model O2 Pro and the Model D2 Pro and 4K 8K version of the Model D2 Pro. I have Nacho's version of the D2 Pro 4K 8K. He sent this to me overnight to see if I was running into the same issues that he was having, and unfortunately I am, and that includes just connectivity issues between the mouse and the 4K dongle. When the mouse is working in 4K, when the mouse is working in 2K or even 1K, everything feels pretty damn solid, but I am running into issues where the mouse will literally just begin to jitter and then lose complete connectivity to the dongle. I have to power off the mouse and power it back on. During gameplay, that obviously presents a massive issue and is a massive flaw, which I would have to think, though, will be fixed and remedied by a firmware update. So that really leads us to the next question. And again, that's if and hopefully when it is fixed by the firmware update. But the next question is, how is the mouse in general separate and apart from the connectivity issue that I was having on the Model D2 Pro? Build quality here is actually exceptional. I have very minimal issues that I can speak of, both on the Model O2 Pro and the Model D2 Pro that I'll take out of the box as well. And then I have the Nacho Customs version. What I can say, I'm not going to go over it too much since it's not stock, but it is an awesome glossy coating in a Pikachu/Pokemon finish, and it does have and maintain really nice implementation of the opticals. Mouse 4 and Mouse 5 both feeling great here on the particular paint job, with the weight and weight balance still feeling absolutely phenomenal, like the one we'll get into out of the box, just fresh out of the box. This is a copy I picked up from Best Buy. I did take off the blue tape from the skates because I tested it for quite a while in Apex. But what I can say is, out of the box, you do get the dongle, which does have, of course, the glorious logo. There is a cable in the box as well, and then you do have some stickers and the larger skates that you can actually put on the top and bottom of the mouse if you want to. In terms of the out-of-box, just overall build quality of the Model D2 Pro, as well as the Model O2 Pro, I have absolutely no concerns with the build integrity of this mouse. I can push as hard as I can from the sides on the Model D2 Pro. I don't get any creaking or flexing. In terms of the top down, again, I have no budging at all in terms of the top shell. And then on the bottom, if I push in a targeted area, I can get a little bit of flex, but obviously that's nothing that I would ever feel in game. You can see the default skates. They are a little bit on the thicker side because they rest in a little designated area for the skates. If you have flatter skates, you might run into some issues with liftoff, but you can raise the liftoff distance in the software as well as change a slew of other settings. Default skates are just okay. They're not my favorite, particularly not on glass pads, but depending on your pad, if you're using a fast cloth pad, they're not horrible. Now, in terms of the optical switches, I'm going to give it to Glorious. I actually think that this is one of the better implementations of optical switches. It has just a really nice, more deep thought to it. I would say it's probably closest to Razer's optical implementation, but just a really nice, tight, crisp, tactile pop, and one that, again, is a little bit deeper and on the thocky side. Again, same thing with the Model O2 Pro. The optical switches are a little bit louder. They're thocky, deep, and they do feel nice, tight, and crisp. Mouse 4 and Mouse 5 on both copies, they have separate issues. The Model D, I have a little bit more pre-travel, not a lot of post-travel. On the Model O2 Pro, I have not really any pre-travel and just a little bit more post-travel. Nothing I feel in-game, nothing that was ever an issue. I have a little bit of flex on the plastic on Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 of both copies, but that never felt like flex or creaking in game. There's some mice that you can actually move the plastic of Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 and it feels like it's creaking. That always bothers me a little bit. I don't have that issue on either copy of this mouse. I don't have any switch grinding, and the scroll wheel feels really nice on both copies. I did have an issue on one of the copies. It almost seemed as though my DPI button, when I would hit it, would actuate twice, almost like it was a double-clicking DPI button. Not really too much of an issue. You can just change the DPI in the software on whichever one you might be accidentally swapping to. In terms of The DPI button, of course, it does correspond with an RGB on the bottom of the mouse, and you can kind of see it's even double clicking there when I'm hitting the DPI button, which is kind of just somewhat of an annoyance, but not really an issue if you just go slowly. So not too big of a deal. Now, in terms of the performance issue, I didn't really feel it on the Model O2 Pro. For some reason, I have felt it on not only the Model D2 Pro 4K 8K, but I also felt it on even the 1000 hertz version of the Model D2 Pro that I bought brand new today from Best Buy. So I think if the mouse is already going to be in a big box store, that performance issue should not exist. Hopefully they resolve it in a firmware update. In terms of shape comparisons, I think the Model O2 Pro, a lot of you guys have already tried it. It is similar to an FK1, and it's a little similar to a Viper Ultimate or Viper V2 Pro. You can see the size comparison. It's somewhat close in size to the Viper V2. It does just have a little bit of differences. It feels, to me, a little bit higher and a little bit wider, and it just comes up a little bit more naturally, filling the inner hand pocket that kind of rests with me here. So I get a little bit better of a grip in terms of palm contact. Both of them I can claw just as easily, though. I feel like these shapes in particular are actually pretty good for claw, especially for my size hands, which are around 21.5 in length. I think in terms of the ergo comparison, it gets a little bit more juicy just because so many things are kind of taking a lot from the EC series. We can see the Model D2 Pro is kind of a Zowie EC2, just a tiny bit larger. It doesn't get to the realm of the EC1. The EC1 is just a behemoth. It's the highest, the widest, the longest. I would say the Dave feels the next longest, and the Model D2 Pro does feel a little bit shorter, and it feels as though my index finger rests a little bit higher than the Faker. I actually prefer the shape of the Model D2 Pro. I think both of these feel very similar in terms of weight, but I actually think that the Model D2 Pro is a little bit more weight balanced. It just feels very airy in the hand. The Zowie EC2, again, definitely more hefty feeling than the Faker as well as the Model D2 Pro, as it's heavier and it's a little bit smaller than the Model D2 Pro. And again, it's a legend of a shape. It feels very good. I still perform very good on the EC2 to date as well. The only one that has kind of an ergonomic flare and groove in Mouse 2 is the Model D2 Pro. I actually really like that. It feels as though my middle finger just rests comfortably in that little groove. But I can say, for me, my ring finger rests kind of lower on the mouse. But if you do start bringing your ring finger up, the Mouse 2 does overhang over the plastic a little bit. So you might catch that and kind of grind against that with your skin if your ring finger sits a little bit higher than mine does. Again, in terms of the weight, the Model D2 Pro 1000 hertz comes in at 60 to 61 grams, and the Death Adder V3 Pro comes in at 60 grams. So overall thoughts, what I can say is I enjoy the shape, I enjoy the build quality, I like the feeling of the opticals, the weight balance, everything here feels really good. It's hitting all of the marks. And in terms of the shape, I think anyone would be very hard-pressed to be able to say that the shapes aren't good. The Model D2 Pro has inspiration from the Zowie EC2. The Model O2 Pro has inspiration from the Zowie FK1. The shapes feel good. The mouse feels good. I just need the performance to be corrected so I don't have to worry about that powering off or disconnect feeling with the sensor itself. When it was working as intended, everything felt good. The performance was there. Did it feel as good on 1000 hertz compared to a G Pro Superlight? I don't think so. I'd still think that the G Pro Superlight sensor, both the original G Pro Superlight and then the G Pro Superlight 2, the performance on the G Pro Superlight 2 just feels better to me than the other mice on the table. But again, I need them to just pump out that firmware update. Hopefully there's something there that fixes it. I can't necessarily recommend the mouse right now until that's fixed. And, who knows, maybe there are just a few outlier issues with some of the dongles or some of the mice. But everything else is getting a check mark from me, and everything else feels good. So I really hope that it's just a little thing that can be corrected. But I hope that helped, guys. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next review. Peace.